Hello, are you here to debate?
Yes, sir. How are you?
Chilling, I'm chilling. Can I just get your name, age, or pronouns, please?
Uh, sure. My name is Drake. I'm 28. I am a man.
Okay, so I assume you use he, him pronouns.
Sure.
You don't sound too sure. Do people call you she, her instead? Because I will if you prefer that.
Well, not usually. My dad does sometimes when he's trying to be mean.
Ooh, yikes. What topic did you want to debate about?
I guess deportations.
Okay.
I think it's a good thing.
You think mass deportations are a good thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, why?
Well, if some laws don't matter, then no laws do. Um, and I know there's a lot of picking and choosing, and a lot of times police can just do whatever the heck they want. I don't agree with that, but the idea that anybody can come in just from wherever. I mean, you wouldn't let random people into your house. Why would it be any different with the country?
Well, I would say it's vastly different, right? Letting random people into a home
Why?
versus an area of land. Yeah.
Why?
Well, just intuitively, it feels vastly different, right? If I'm saying like I don't want someone coming into my home, typically my home is like a private domicile where I want privacy, right? So like I wouldn't even let my friends into my home at any time of the day because it's a private area. The country is a public place. Like I don't mind if somebody comes into a public area.
So you'd be okay with people like sitting on your front lawn,
Yeah, sure.
not in your house
Yeah, sure.
all day?
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I don't think that's
Why would
very
why would I care about
honest.
that?
Why would you care if there was a mob of people outside of your house? I don't know. I think that'd be
Well,
kind of a
I think if
security
I
risk,
think you
huh?
would you this would in order to analogize this properly, you'd have to basically say the amount of space in the U.S. versus how many people showed up, then like fraction that off to the amount of space in my front yard and place people there proportionately. And I think if you did that, you're gonna have like a blade of grass, right? Like blade of grass worth of people, right? It's not like people coming into the country are taking up all this space that we don't have. We have the resources to house these people. We have the resources for them to work. I don't understand what
We
the
can't
issue
even
is with
house
all
our
of
own
that.
veterans.
Do you think that's because of lack of resources or because of cuts to
The lack of
veteran
allocation
programs?
of resources. We're busy spending money on
We
gender
absolutely
studies
we
in
wait,
Uruguay.
we absolutely have the resources to house veterans. We don't fund it.
No, I know. I'm saying it's a misallocation of the resources. That's the issue.
Yeah, but why is there a misallocation of resources? Because it's not because those
Yeah,
resources are going to other things, right? It's because, like federally, well, you could make the argument that it's because the resources are going to like the military. That's where the bulk of our budget is. But like, where do you think? Who's? Let me. I'll phrase it this way. When's the last time the GOP has passed like a significant bill that tackles homelessness amongst veterans?
I don't know. I don't think Democrats have either. I don't know if that's really. I mean, isn't I mean, the major issue is really like you can't allow unvetted people to just come in.
Oh, sure. Then why don't we just give them a path to citizenship and vet them?
Why would we want to do that?
Well, if the issue is they're unvetted, this would be vetting them.
Just blanket giving them citizenship isn't vetting them.
Yes, it would be if we're. I just said, why don't we give them a path to citizenship and vet them through that path to
What would
citizenship?
that look like?
If they're coming from a different country, I think we can just work with the other country to get their criminal record, right? We can do that pretty easily and have it be like almost instantaneous. And if they don't have a criminal record,
So
we let them in.
what would disqualify somebody in this
A violent criminal past.
violent criminal past?
Yeah, if they don't have a
So
criminal
like
past.
kind of like the Maryland
But
man.
even then, I put an asterisk and say that like if that violent past, well, he didn't have a violent criminal past before coming to the country. Once you're in the country, I'm not kicking you out because you committed violence. Like our citizens commit violence and we don't kick them out, right? But like an asterisk for that would be like if that violence was committed when you were a child, I'd probably or a young person, I'd probably look at the situation of that and determine from there. If it was committed as an adult, I'd probably say, yeah, you're probably not going to let you in unless you can show substantially that you've gone through like rehabilitative procedures.
But like, where's the incentive for like myself as a like I can trace my heritage back to the Mayflower and to slave ships. Where's the incentive for somebody like me to say some guy from Nigeria who we can't really get his records because he's a tribal person? Where's the incentive of me saying,
first, what are you talking about? Nigeria has a criminal justice system that houses records.
Absolutely,
where are you getting this?
The North and the South don't get along. There's definitely parts of the place that have no documentation.
Hold on. I just really want to know, what does it matter? Why do you need incentive? What do I care about if you have incentive or not?
Exactly. Why do I care about them?
You don't have to care about them.
Well, if I have to share my country with them, don't I? If they're both,
you don't get to decide. You as an individual don't get to decide who you share your country with. Your country is not your property.
But I get to vote on the people who make these decisions. So why would I want to vote for random people to have this?
You don't want people to have better lives?
I would love them to fix wherever the hell they're from.
Why can't they just, what's the issue? Hold on. What I'm proposing here is that we adjust legal immigration and give them legal pathways to citizenship and make it easier for people to have legal pathways to citizenship so that they're not on like a 10 to 20 year wait list. What you're saying is, why should they come here, period?
Yes.
So you just think that our country should be sans immigrants, like just no immigrants in the country?
I would say not until we figure out what happened with the 10 million people that came over in the past 4 years. No, I think we should put a pause on Holland Bridge.
We know where they are. They're here. What is that?
Well, yeah, we know where they are, but
why do you think so many people came into the country illegally over the last 4 years?
I mean, economic migration, probably.
Sure. What are the two biggest causes for illegal migration?
I just gave you one. I mean, I don't know what the second one would be, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you. The second one would be a lack of legal options. So when legal options are turned down, illegal options go up. So as a country locks down legally, people are going to try to come in illegally, right? And we know that over the 4 years Biden was president, about 11.2 to 11.6 million illegal immigrants came into the country, right?
Sure.
During Trump's first term, do you know how many people he decreased legal immigration by?
I don't know if you could really give an accurate number.
You can, because we can look at the amount of visas and green cards that were issued and see if he decreased that amount.
But like, just Trump being in office is going to de-incentivize people to migrate, I would say.
No, this would be about the amount that the U.S. government issues, not the amount that people are applying. So if the U.S. government is issuing less, right, that's specifically because Trump passed policies in the federal government to decrease the amount of green cards and visas that he issued. And he issued about 11.6. He decreased them by about 11.6 million.
Okay.
So it's interesting that in his term, legal immigration was decreased by about 11.6 million. And then in Biden's 4 years, illegal immigration rose by about 11.2, 11.6. You could even probably take it up to like 11.8 or 12. But it's interesting that the numbers are so close, right? When we know that decreasing legal immigration helps increase illegal immigration.
Okay.
So like, don't you think we would have seen less people had we not decreased the people that could legally come in?
So if the goal is to have less people,
the goal shouldn't be to have less people. And in fact, Donald Trump didn't even run on a platform of the goal being having less people. He ran on a platform of strengthening legal immigration.
Definitely mentioned putting a pause or moratorium on immigration.
I didn't hear one prior to his election. He said he was going to make sure that legal immigrants were okay, but then he removed their ability to receive green cards or visas. And in fact, we know that when we look at the illegal immigration number, 60% of all people that are here illegally are visa overstays. They're people who overstayed their visas.
Well, I mean, if your visa gets revoked and you're not able to renew it, you need to leave. That's the law.
Yeah, but if you're just indiscriminately taking away people's
Right.
visas,
So if you're just
they're going to
indiscriminately breaking the law, why would what's the incentive?
It's not a
of
law.
keeping you?
It's not breaking the law to overstay your visa. That wouldn't be a breaking
Yes,
of the law.
it is. It's
No,
against
it's not.
the law.
It's a civil violation.
Okay, it's a civil violation.
Yeah.
What's the difference
Between a civil and a
you'd
criminal?
be
It means it's not
ineligible
a, it means it's not a
for
criminal
benefits
act.
or immigration.
It would be like
So
you speeding, right? Do you think you should be kicked out of a country if you speed? Right? Speeding is a civil violation.
I
not a
guess it
criminal one.
depends on the context, right? If you're going 120 miles an hour in Canada in a 20, yeah, you should probably get thrown out.
You should be thrown out of the country out of a country if you speed.
Let's say I'm
What?
in Canada visiting, right? And I'm going 120 miles an hour downtown Toronto. Yeah, I should probably get thrown out
Why?
because I'm obviously a danger to that society.
Yeah, but why does that result in you being kicked out? We don't kick out people in
Why
our
does being
in our
a danger
country.
to a society result in you getting kicked out? I don't know, man.
Well, yeah. You're
Like
only
what?
saying the people that should be kicked out are you're saying people who are dangerous to society should be kicked out, but you don't hold this for citizens. You only hold this for non-citizens.
Correct, because if you're a citizen, you have a right to be here. If you're a non-citizen, you don't. Unless
So the
if you're a
goalpost is
permanent
moved.
resident, that's different, I would say. But if you're not a green card holder, no. If you're here on like a worker's visa or something like that, I'm sorry. No.
Yeah, but why? Can you elaborate
Because
more
you're
than just
a danger
because
to
you're not a
society.
citizen? Wait, but again, the
Because
danger
you've
the
proven
danger to
that you can't
society
follow the
doesn't
rules.
your danger to
You've
society
proven that
doesn't
you can't-
hold. That doesn't
You've proven
hold.
that you can't follow the rules.
Yeah, so some
You don't
citizens
get to
prove
play
they
in the
can't follow the
sandbox
rules.
if you can't follow the rules.
Wait, why do
This
we
isn't
allow
your house.
citizens to play in the sandbox who don't follow the rules then?
Because it's their sandbox.
Okay, so it's okay to break the rules if it's your sandbox.
It's kind of like having a roommate, right? Or like a brother, right? If your brother is rubbing shit on the walls, you're going to be pissed off at him. And you might kick him in the face. But if your brother's friend does it, you're going to throw him out of the house.
I would also throw my brother out of the house.
Sure, but it's not. If you and your brother are both on the
What?
deed, what are you going to do?
This analogy does not hold because it's not about being on the
Okay.
deed. No, like what? Nobody's on a deed in America, right? There's no deed. There's
No,
no like
plenty of people are on deeds in America.
you know
Yeah.
that the U.S. can revoke citizenship of its citizens, right?
Sure,
So again,
yeah.
I'm asking why don't they use that as a punishment then? If that's your
I
criteria,
mean, I
why?
would say maybe we should have that as an option rather than being like locked up for the rest of your life or put to death. You should be able to revoke your citizenship and live in exile. I'd be open to that.
Let me ask you something. Do you believe that somebody entering the country illegally is grounds for them being thrown into like one of the world's strictest prisons?
I think it's grounds to have them thrown out of the country.
Okay, so you disagree with Trump throwing people into CCOT?
I'd have to know individual cases. I don't know. I can't blatantly say
Well,
that.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia got thrown into CCOT, and he has zero criminal record. Do you think people with
Zero criminal record.
Correct, zero criminal record. He has no criminal record, no
Wasn't he
criminal
like
history.
Wasn't he like found by a court to be like an MS-13 like gang
No.
member or something like that?
Nope. Nope.
I'm not
A
familiar
judge
with the
said
situation. I can't really speak on it.
a judge said police seemed to have probable cause to believe he was a gang member, but this was for a bond hearing. This was not a court case. This is the judge saying, well, it seems probable.
I'm not really familiar with the situation. I couldn't really speak on it.
Yeah, the judge said it seemed probable that he might be, so I won't grant him bond. A future judge said, yeah, he's not, so we're going to let him go.
Yeah, and that may be well and good and true, but I'm really not familiar with the situation. I can't.
Well, I'll explain the situation. He has zero criminal history. This was even confirmed by the
I'd
Supreme
really
Court.
rather. I'd have to do some research.
No, you don't. I'm
wouldn't-
telling
I
you
wouldn't-
literally what the Supreme Court said
I
about this
can't-
man.
Come on.
He has zero criminal history, and he's now in a prison in El Salvador.
That's. I mean, again, this is from you though. How can I take that?
Let's say this is.
Let's
Let's say this is true. Let's just run under the assumption for a second that everything I say is true.
Assuming this man has done nothing wrong other than come to the country legally.
Well, hold on. It's not about doing something wrong. It's about a criminal history, right? Because without being proven in the court of law that you did something wrong.
Assuming this man has broken no laws other than coming over the border illegally, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he should be deported, not thrown into jail. What happens in his country, wherever he might have been from, once he gets there, if they have, if they want to throw him in jail, that's between him and his country. I want nothing to do with it.
Okay. Now, what if this man has a order from a United States immigration court saying he cannot be removed to said country? Now, what do we do?
What level was the court that said it, and who issued
immigration court? An executive, part of the executive branch.
A court, a district court. Where are we at?
A district court judge.
A district court judge, and who ordered the deportation?
What would that matter? Deportation orders can't override immigration district court judges.
Well, because I mean, like a local judge can't just.
It's
say,
not a local judge.
Like
it's not a local judge. It's a federal judge. It's not a local judge.
Right. A district judge. They're over so many states, right?
This isn't hold on. Right? This is a federal immigration court judge appointed by the federal government. Okay. Okay,
so an unelected federal official, right?
All judges are unelected. Federal judges, all federal judges are unelected. Yes, they are.
Right. So an unelected federal official.
That's how federal judges work. They have to be unelected.
Yes.
The goalpost is just moving constantly. Why is the goalpost moving so much?
Right. What do you mean the goalpost is moving?
The goalpost move. What does them being unelected have to do with anything? It has nothing to do with anything. Like quite literally nothing.
Well,
like the relevancy of that is zero.
Would you take an order from an elected official more seriously than an order from an unelected official?
I would take both. I would take both. I would take both in the same vein.
I wouldn't.
Okay, I don't care if you would take it doesn't change the legality of it, right? Whether you would or not doesn't change the legality that if a federal court judge told you something and you didn't do it, you'd go to federal prison. You can say, I don't want to do it. It doesn't matter.
Depends on the context.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely it does.
No, it doesn't.
If a higher court judge issued something and a lower court judge issued something contradictory to it, you would take the higher court.
Yes, but there is no higher court for immigration than a federal immigration judge. There's quite literally nobody higher for federal cases. When there is a federal immigration judge who makes a ruling, that ruling stays in effect. The Supreme Court has even confirmed this. This isn't federal immigration judges are not part of the judicial branch. They're part of the executive branch.
I'm sorry. Federal judges are not part of the judicial branch?
Immigration court judges are a part of the executive branch of government, not the judicial.
Okay. So based on the scenario that I've already said that I'm not familiar with, right? Yes. I don't know. What do you want me to say?
I'm telling you, if a person has an order from an immigration judge, which is part of the executive branch, saying that legally they cannot be deported to a country, and somebody comes in and deports them to that country, what do you think should happen to the person that illegally deported them to that country?
I guess it would matter where that person was on the executive branch, right? If they're at a higher position, like if the president himself said get him out, like
Legally, the president cannot. Legally, the
branch.
president cannot go against an immigration court order.
But
we have that written in. We have.
Branch.
It's not how. Yeah, but okay. So this might be an issue. Might be a civics issue. You might not understand like the civics of this, but presidents do not have unilateral power to do whatever they want. There is still a system in place, and there are still parts of the executive branch that when they make a decision, the president must follow said decision. And one of these is immigration court judges. So if an immigration court judge rules that this person is granted a withholding of removal to a specific country, the president cannot come in and send them to that country without first going to court and having the order rescinded. Otherwise, it's illegal.
Or suspending habeas corpus, right?
Well, habeas corpus has not been suspended, so. And it would be pretty bad if it was.
Right, but I mean, you're saying the president can't do whatever he wants. I mean,
sure, if he gets congressional approval to suspend habeas corpus, then he can do whatever he wants, and we just all have to cope with our rights being taken away. But if without that congressional approval, he can't do that. Just like the president can't unilaterally like fund
ignoring a judge that's not part of the judicial branch. I don't know.
Well, here's the fun part about the Kilmer-Abrego case. It then went to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court said, hey, Donald Trump administration, what you did was illegal, and you have to bring this person back to give him due process. And do you know what the Donald Trump administration did?
No, said no.
They ignored the Supreme Court. So what should we do when a president just decides that they don't need any sort of checks and balances and they can do whatever the fuck they want? What do we do?
I don't know. What are you calling for? Like just open revolt?
Would it be a revolt to remove somebody who is violating people's constitutional rights? Would that be a revolt?
Yeah, I mean, you could say the same thing about Lincoln when he suspended habeas corpus.
Lincoln got congressional approval.
Revolt. I wouldn't agree with the reason behind it, but I mean, that's what it is.
Lincoln got congressional approval.
Sure. He's still
Trump does not have congressional
approval.
Trump does not have congressional approval right now to remove habeas corpus. So if he's acting in a way that violates people's rights without removing habeas corpus, should we just be okay with this? We should just take this line down.
Non-citizens should be a lot of the same rights as citizens.
It has been affirmed by the Supreme Court time and time again that non-citizens are granted the right to due process. Time and time again, over and over and over and over and over again. Do you want?
That's not what I asked.
That's my answer. Yes, they have a constitutional right to due process in the United States. So yes, they should be given their constitutional rights.
Do you think they should have all the same rights as American citizens?
They don't have all the rights of American citizens.
I'm asking.
I think they should have rights that have to do with like the justice system. But no, I probably wouldn't grant them every single right that we have.
Same rights as American citizens?
No, because I don't think non-citizens should be able to. No, because I don't think non-citizens should be able to vote. So I do think there are some rights that they shouldn't have.
Okay.
However,
all right. Well, I mean,
their right to due process is real and exists. And again, the Supreme Court has affirmed this multiple times. So my question becomes, what should we do to a president that is violating multiple people's constitutional right to due process and just ignoring Supreme Court orders, telling him to give them back their due process? What should we do?
I mean, I don't think there's a lot that you can do.
I'll ask it in a different way. Do you think it's okay that Donald Trump is doing this?
Yes. Okay,
that's all I needed. Shout out to who was that? Shout out to Miss D. Thank you for the PayPal to boot the guest. It's pretty simple. If you believe people's fucking rights should be violated, go fuck yourself. I don't know what you want me to do. Your whole stance is yes. I don't give a fuck that these people have rights. They shouldn't. Please get the fuck out of here.